Howdy Pitmasters. In this video I'm going to show you how to trim any kind of meat. So in this demonstration we're using a flat end brisket. So the first thing you need to know is about the fat cap, which as you can see here is basically that big thick layer of fat that sits on the upper side of the meat. So depending on the size of the meat, the fat cap can be smaller in some areas, thicker in other bits. It can be completely thin all over the top and be quite a lean cut, or it can be completely covered and a really solid fat cap that is quite a fatty, unrenderable cut. So it really just depends on various factors, the marbling, where you source your meat, lots of different things. In this example, you can see this bit here, a really strong solid fat cap on this end here, which is where they would cut the point bit of the brisket off, which is the fattier end, where they'd separate a full pack of brisket into a point and flat end. So you can see it's quite a heavy fat cap up here, but as we get towards the bottom here, it's a lot thinner and wouldn't require as much trimming. So whilst there are exceptions to the rule, the general rule of thumb is to trim your fat cap down to around 1/4 inch of fat. And the reason we say that is because it's universally pretty easy to understand. No matter how thin or thick your fat cap is, 1/4 inch is a good rule of thumb. So the reason we do that is you don't want to have such a thick fat cap that it's unrenderable, it sits there on the cook, your bark doesn't develop well, and you just get a poor result. But you don't want to trim away all of the fat to the point where you leave nothing on the meat. The reason you want to leave that small amount on the meat, like we said, that 1/4 inch of fat, is so that throughout the cook it renders down into the meat, gets soaked up, and gives you a real juicy, tender, nice result, and stops the meat from drying out. So now that we've trimmed most of our fat, you can see here that I'm squaring off the edges of the cut of brisket as well. Not only does that tend to give you a more aesthetic looking cut of meat, but as it's cooking, it tends to not melt into itself and sort of get that unappealing way that it ends up looking, and you just overall tend to get a better result if you square off the edges and get rid of all those little meat tags of fat and dead, skin that probably will either burn real quick or just not add any, anything of value to your cook. So square off the edges, and then what I'm doing here is I'm just patting down where I've trimmed just to sort of even it out and get a feel for any lumpier bits that I need to carve off. And then you flip the brisket over, or any kind of meat for that matter, and just get rid of this big silver skin as well. You don't need to do too much trimming on the underside, but just some of these bigger bits and odd meat tags on the corner, some of these really fatty collagen-y bits right here, we just want to trim them up. Now that we've done that, just flip it back over, and again we'll rub it down and have another good look and another good feel. You're never going to get it perfect, but you want to try your best, and just remove any other little excess bits that feel out of place or that might be too thick compared to your rest of your cut of meat. Just go through and carve them off as well. So now that we've done all those steps, your meat's good to get rubbed up and get onto your smoker bit. Cheers guys, thanks for watching. I'm Mark from Grillmark's Barbecue.